This is Shirley with Spirit of Matter here, and this is an episode that I'm making basically to honor the eclipse cycle that already is, and to be in Aries, with Ra in Aries. Yes, you are loved. And Ketu in Libra, which is my 8th house. And eclipses, nodal returns happen for 18-year cycle. So I am trying to think for myself what has been 18 years ago. And at this point in my life where the sun is in my 8th house, and I kind of think back to very young age, and wonder, like things come up. So I thought it would be a good idea to have such a public diary. I don't know how long do these, mediums last, and yeah. But currently it seems more readily to speak openly to the world. It's not a must for anybody to listen, but to have these kind of remnants or thoughts available. I think in the world right now you don't have privacy, and I was prepared for this, but actually something accidental that happened to me. I used to write in my notebook, and I was doing some school journalism, and then my parents found that writing, and they got very emotional about this, and I was writing a half story, half something. But if actually I'm, as far as I know, second generation, I don't know more, to for people of the word. And eventually it would be that parent who would tell me, what you don't want, she said to me, what you don't want published, don't write. And it is something that in when you are a person of the word, doesn't matter, you're a screenwriter, you're an author, you're a vlogger, blogger, whatnot. There is a saying that walks around, with writing. They say all writings are meant to be read, and so I just respect that and speak in a way that I know it is observable. Okay, don't try to write to my dear diary. But this got me when I wrote Sugar-Free Lemonade. It was how was it? 2017, I wrote it as a response to how they closed the report about my case, which I didn't even ask to report. I wanted to speak up for myself. And then I wrote the satire, and the very person who closed that report in a way that was very malefic, before that, she called me into her office, and she was supposed to take care of this, they call it sexual harassment thing. It's not sexual harassment, it's more like, I don't know how many people understand it. It's more like they traffic people for money. I think some of them don't even get it. This is what they do. But the thing is, she said, why don't you write to your diary? Yeah. And I even asked myself, why don't I write, like, why do I feel the need to write it public? And now I connect these things, and I understand that with now, Pluto going to the age of air, Uranus to the age of Gemini. And when Ra was in Gemini, we were kind of prepared to everything being exposed, everything being open, but also a lot of information and hidden information, things, collective forgetting. Yes, one of the things I remember myself writing a while ago was your blindness gives me privacy. Simply that, on the experience of being like unseen, I think it's a teenager or so. And wrote something like this. So we are at the age where you can barely write something and keep it private. So I think it makes sense to do such a thing as what I'm doing, and just accept that, especially when you count in telepathy, and telepathy not only by people, but your you're getting advertisement for your thoughts in the algorithm. So it's transparency. It requires radical acceptance. Um, yeah, and also disillusionment if we had stigmas or ideation and so on and so on and so forth. So let's see what happened 20, not 20, 18 years ago. So 18 years ago, Ra was in Aries. And let's look for this. Let's look for the eclipses. Oh, for those who are interested, I began this episode in Saturn, our Sun day, with Sun ingressing into my 8th house, the 0 Libra. The midheaven is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is in the 4th house. Saturn rules the ascendant, Saturn retrograde, and the ascendant on the 22nd degree of Aquarius. The most angular planet, I think, is Venus here. So Venus 18 degrees Leo. Let's see, the ascendant right now, by the way, squares Uranus on the 22nd degree of Taurus. So just to mention. Now, 18 years ago, so we are in 2023. And let's go to the eclipses, because it's around the eclipse cycle that we count. Okay, Rahu going again to where it has been. And we are actually looking for eclipses that were taking place. If we're in 2023, we are talking 18 years back. 18 years. Computation worked for me. So 20 years ago was actually 2003. And so 2005, it's not that long ago. 2005. So let's take a look at this cycle of eclipses. And in 2005, well, I was working for a credit card company, I think, and I was volunteering on sets and writing what would be the first script that I would write that will be produced by somebody other than me, I think. I believe so. A short movie, student film, and the film one in 2008 in film festival. But I think I was writing it in 2005. And that at that time, basically, I had it again where Ketu was in my 8th house and Rao was in my 2nd house. And I remember particularly I was doing both, committing to writing. I wrote in those years, I wrote the majority of my published writings. And when I say published, I mean published to the public, not published as in publishers, because it seemed to me like they want to take all of your work but give you no money. And then I stopped working for the bank and I edited my mother's book, which would be in 2006, 2007. Yeah, the editing work, I think I did it in 2006 and 2007. Into 2007, here when the book was self-published. But at those years, which was here, it says 2004 to 2006, we had eclipses. 2004. So, well, what happened for me then? I think that basically changed my income. Just take a look at these eclipses. Because this one was on my 29th, April 2004, on my 29th. I was 20 years, about to be 20. I was 19. Oh, so, but then I was still waiting for, I think, I was waiting for my certification that I finished high school, and still working in McDonald's, but also video editing. Um, this one. Then I left that job, and basically I would begin to work in a bank, but in a credit card company. Um, but that was with Rao on 11 degrees Taurus. Very interesting. But at that time, I believe no, at that time I was already working and making money of editing. It's basically TA for editing. I believe I left that job and McDonald's, and I couldn't afford studying in university. Oh, that was the crisis. Okay. But this, yes, that was the crisis. I couldn't afford studying university to go on. And I felt like my income is not sufficient to fund my studies. For people who hear it in American ears, that might sound very weird because Americans sell their body and soul to make a degree, and then if they don't commit suicide in the midst of it, then they will for sure commit suicide after that. And if they somehow survive, then if anybody is homeless, then they say that you made bad choices in life, and nobody takes the time to even take a look at what's going on. But the fact is, people are used to having to pay to save money for their children's education before they have children, and for as long as that was working, for as long as people could do that, then we would say, okay, this is the American dream. But then it stopped working for many, and now we're having another such recession again. It just stops working. So. But for Israel, it's like it's not Europe cheap. Okay, it's not free, but it is basically still like Israel is work and study. So I couldn't work. It was the beginning where I couldn't work in a job that will integrate the studies, and I tried to take the studies like in my pace, but then it was like the money ran out, and there were no grants, no nothing, and I was like, okay, that is that. So that was a crisis. It was a crisis basically that I could not pursue on my studies. But the funny thing is that I began to apply what I studied, and my film that I wrote, co-wrote basically with the director, did achieve a lot, but not fiscally. Okay, which was very important for me when it was 2008. I was both in a situation where it was dreadful in my own personal life, and I had this great achievement. Um, and even the person that was unfortunately was psychologically violent to me, even one thing that he did good, that I'm proud of you, but they could not even accept it. So and I saw what it's like when you've got, LA Film Festival, top notch. I wrote not only the screenplay but also the advertisement. Okay, what gets people to look at the movie. I did everything right, um, and no income came out of these prizes. Okay, the directors got a bit contract to produce to market the film, but everybody was working all this hard and got a world known achievement for student film, and nothing came out of it. Now, of course, I was not compromising my art, um, but the thing is that I did make it applicable to the masses. So, like, it was like it didn't win the first place for no reason. I was marketing. I was going to the United States. I was understanding. I was not going there because I couldn't travel, but um, I understood the market, and I understood the crowd and I played to that. So we got that based also on my marketing skills, not just my and his, and not just by my writing skills. And of course, the skills that everyone said is amazing, and absolutely don't regret I was a part of that. But it was also a shock to the system because my strategy up until then was I'm not going to compromise my art. I'm going to do what I love doing. I'm going to give me a job, a jobby job. I'm going to do a jobby job and I'm going to do my art. I'm going to have the satisfaction for my art. And that would soon be um, that would soon be not aging well in terms of my mental and physical health. And so here, that 2004 was when I left basically not one but two jobs and my school, and got me a jobby job, which would later, through someone that was dating me, I would get to know the rector that I actually studied with. So it's funny how things blended, that I got to know them through working in the bank. So that movie needed to be made probably. Um, but that was very interesting about how it happened, because I kind of like I gave up studying filmmaking, but I did not give up writing. And actually, I remember very favorably a person that I just talked to online. I never met him in person. And we made a contract with ourselves that he's going to do programming for 4 hours and I'm going to do writing for half an hour. A lot came from that. Okay, it was a Sagittarius sun, so Sagittarius is my 10th house. A lot came from that. I still remember him favorably today. And then in 2006, I believe I will begin to edit my mother's book. But in 2004, 2005, I will be working for a credit card company. Okay, so that would be my jobby job. And in there, while agreeing to kind of like do a jobby job and write on the side. But before the writing thingy, actually, I remember that I was allergic to everything. I was not deadly allergic, but it expressed itself in kind of like a lot of dry mouth because of the pill for allergy. I don't remember what was this allergy to be frank. I just remember that I needed these anti-allergic pills, and then we tried like holistic medicine, and then I went to an acupuncture um, specialist, but she was very good. She was basically holistic, and she said she did not know anything about me. She did not know I'm a writer. She did not know I'm a creatress. She did not know my family. She did not know um, that anything. And she just said to me, you need to write. You need to write and you need to create. You must write and you must create. Okay. Probably looking at imbalances in the sex chakra and my throat chakra, because I was working with people and I couldn't speak. Okay, every time I had to go to the bathroom, and then I took the allergy pills, then my mouth was dry and I had to go to the bathroom. And somebody actually at work told me, you see, the throat chakra, it's because you have a lot to say, okay, and you don't speak. So I went to that acupuncturist and she knew nothing about me. She said, you must write, you must create. And so altogether, when I was more open to speak with people, I met online. I met a person that he was doing programming, and I was doing half an hour of writing, just half an hour. So just half an hour a day, and that lended itself to a lot of writings. And again, I was fortunate enough to be like noticed even in a website where everybody publishes and nobody notices you. So the editors noticed me so much so that people thought that they know me, that it's like, nepotism. And I was like, absolutely not. I did not know these people. So I was very privileged and very lucky to be noticed and be validated and be recognized for my skill, which is something that a lot of women don't have. A lot of women are very talented, very skilled, very intelligent, and they don't get noticed. Also, a lot of men. And then people have like stigmas around them. For me, I was very lucky to actually be noticed and be appreciated. But then, um, yeah, I think the first time I made some money out of also editing my mother's book was a grant that I got when I finished high school. It's just a prize that I got for my writing skills, and I felt very, very encouraged that I managed to make money out of writing. Um, and so that that situation where I wanted to be creative, but I wanted to make sure that my making money. Here we are again, with me, having ideas for paintings to do with swastika, Hitler, and biodiversity, and all my Twitter posts about how's an artist today keep a genocide at bay. So, what I was concerned about regarding my income is that I understood that I have to be creative, and then I got the affirmation that I didn't even guess was that I must create because this is my health. And basically, one of the things that I was complaining was that I'm getting up in the morning and I want to, well, I'm enraged. I feel enraged. Okay, I'm learning to be emotionally intelligent, not use genocide analogies. I feel enraged. Okay? And so she told me, you must create, you must write. So I did that. Okay, so I did that, and everybody needs such a doctor. I didn't understand that I will become such a healthcare practitioner person, but it's not enough. Even when you are a healthcare practitioner, you also must create. And actually, one of the things that I genuinely repent because I didn't understand was my colleagues in screenwriting. They were complaining that they don't have jobs in the industry. Now, for me, people who worked in the industry were already compromising their art. So I was like, well, they're very talented people. They can do anything. It's not like they're doing their art, okay? And I halfway repent that because working for a reality show is not really allowing you to showcase your creative ability and shine. Is also a jobby job. It is said it's a compromise, but sometimes these compromises are leading us to sacrifice more than it is divinely guided for us to sacrifice. So yeah, in 2004, I basically was beginning to actually do filmmaking, which I already enjoyed, but I was not making money out of it. And for me, there was this equation. You can create what you want, or you can make money. And I actually admired the ability of Spielberg to combine the two, because he managed to combine what doing something that he likes and making money. And I wanted to be able to do that, but I understood that this is a process. But I don't remember entirely what was I thinking. But what I can say is that I was very happy to be acknowledged and appreciated for my creative skills and for my conceptual art. When you write your shine and it gets noticed, it's a connection that you have with the world. It is the sex chakra, okay? Second sex chakra, okay, not the root. It is relation. You feel connected to the world. You feel a part of humanity to a certain degree. It's like there's something inside you that is being expressed and is being received. And that was a part of creation. But another thing was that I was exposed to the many things that are not going well in the credit market. And I was not like, for me, when I was working for a credit card company, I didn't think much because
Hell yeah, I grew up in a city, but at that age was called Ramat Gan. We live in a lot of cities, but that age, that was the city of where my grandparents used to live. So at that time, it was a city. Classes were more the issue. We were working class. Nobody hated money. Okay, really, nobody hated money. We didn't have anything against money because even though we're not rich, we're working class. But uh, we were also not in poverty. Okay, my grandfather and my grandma had a house. Mama had a house. In the beginning, later she had to sell it. And I didn't quite get the equation of, I was, for me, the equation was like, I'm going to work hard. I'm not afraid of work. I'm going to make money. I'm going to do whatever I like to do with that money. Okay, I'm going to live good. But also because I sacrificed more than I understood that I sacrificed, um, it led to an ailment, and then like the doctor prescribed me to write. So what happened to me at 20 basically happens to people in their 40s, in their 50s, sometimes in their 30s when they try to get pregnant. And I remember actually this issue about me being like a birth doula for people is something funny because I'm not an eight houser. Okay, I'm not an eight houser. But the thing is that I would run across time with people that wanted to bring babies, and then something was wrong, and then either I would say something, or just after a while they would be okay. I did not impregnate people, but, but the thing is, I remember, yeah, it would be later that I was working for a high-tech company, and one of the girls were trying to have babies with her husband, and they understood it's like the working stress cannot be tolerated. We're trying to bring life to the world, and um, and yeah, I remember that we talked and I addressed this. So it's just, for me, I was married to filmmaking. Okay, I was married to filmmaking. I was married to writing. I didn't think at high school that I would have children. It's like you work, like you're married to this job, which I understand is sacrificing more than we should. But that was hyped a lot, and that was um, it was the dedication. It's like you dedicate your life to it, but you don't understand that you can dedicate your life to it and have a life, which is also something that I need to understand. Um, so at the time, I was basically letting go of prescribed, letting go of prescribed medicine as well, because it was not working for me. It was for allergy back then. I don't remember what I was allergic to. I think the cat hair. We had a Persian cat. Or was it that he died later? And then I probably, yeah. But also the air quality in Tel Aviv was horrid. And so that was the time I left basically a source of um, income and studies. And you see here, Keto in my ninth house, it would be Scorpio. And that means that the very little that I managed to study filmmaking, get away with this, because my family did not have money for my studies in university. Um, Nobody predicted that I won't be able to work. Okay, nobody predicted I won't be able to stand on my feet and I won't be able to speak. Okay, and you see how I just tried to take this path of, hey, I'm probably not going to get to do this. Yeah, I'm probably not going to get to do this experimental, artistic, creative filmmaking and get paid um, large enough. And what I can get a job in filmmaking, what it seemed to me was not something that I would be enjoying to create. And therefore I was like, I'll do what I don't want to compromise my creativity. I'll just give me a jobby job. It's very important that I remember this life lesson today, because especially this question, I had another video about fertility, birthing that come up. I'm I'm not the mother who could stay at home. I'm not the mother who could give up her creativity and career after she's creating children. That doesn't mean that I want to necessarily give up being a parent. So the entire artistic industry, the working industry, it's like the entire world needs to change so that I will be able to live. So this is very fascinating. It's very important that I go over this right now as we are approaching October, and I suggest you to do the same. Okay, you can comment. You can let's find a hashtag for this. I don't know if hashtags still work today. 18 years, okay, hashtag 18 years. You can have hashtag 18 years and comment, video comment, and put it in the comments, put the link in the comment. I would really, really love to hear from you. It's like, it's not it's not a soliloquy. It's a dialogue where we all get to express ourselves. So I would really like to listen to your stories. I don't have this like editing composture or even the energy to edit something big right now. It's like asking for people to bring me stuff and edit a movie. Blah, blah, blah. So it could be wonderful and nice. I don't think I have the means to do that right now. But you're very welcome to do that, hashtag 18 years. So the thing is that right now I'm going to again to have this Rahu in my second house. Okay, so Keto is going for my ninth. I basically visited the Netherlands and I came back to Israel, and I'm very happy that I was there. And I also understand why it is still not the time to try and spend a couple of months there with ease and get to know. I do it from afar right now, but it also sets the tone for kind of like the next 9 years where I might find myself again in that place, okay? Because I don't think it's academia for now, or maybe it is, but it's more abroad. And the abroad is kind of linked with my upbringing, especially Europe, but also the United States. Although I have not been to the United States, I would love to travel, but we'll see what will the United States be as well. So that memory where I was trying to go for any viable option, because I was not looking to change the world so much as, I tell you, when did I give up changing the world? It was when I was 12. So that's interesting, because I was 20, and when I was 2 years old, basically we had that cycle of eclipses again. And what happened then was my parents got divorced. So basically because they were having a lot of quarrels, like a lot of fights, and my mother did not want me to grow in such an environment. Although as I would grow up, we would have a lot of fights. So it's very difficult. But that's it, I was like, trying to think about the 22nd there. Oh, I see. Mars was in the 11th degree of Libra. A lot of fortune, yeah, on 11th degree. And it was on the 21st degree of Libra. Oh, is it? Yes, it is exactly the degree that it's going to eclipse in October. Verdammt. And Mercury was in Virgo. Wait, it was in Libra, sorry. Was in Libra. Opposing my Mercury. Oh my God.
Venus was in my seventh house. Jupiter and that and that and that. Okay. It's all into my eighth house. Letting go. Okay, it's very much like this eclipse because this eclipse is going to have Mars already in Scorpio, but we will have another Mars in Libra with this eclipse cycle. This is a very like it's not for nothing. You see, it's not for nothing. And I wanted to talk about like the time where I felt like I gave up on what did I give up? On changing the world. Well, I was. It was in the murder of Prime Minister Rabin, basically. Um, but before that, there are things that now come about because I have seen the symbol of the swastika is related to it, and I will tell you how. 2000, it will be 2007 that I would know a person who was actually a German musician, and he was a lot older than me, but more experienced in relationships. I was a writing person, so I was a person of the word, but constantly writing. I did not have experience with communication with people and so. And he had his traumas, which he projected onto me. And I had my traumas, which I projected onto him. It was very, very terrible. But we had a friend she was American, a filmmaker. And she mentioned the swastika. She's the first I remember she told me. The swastika was for, an old symbol that was on airplanes that even Jewish pilots were flying. It was also a Jewish symbol and also Hindu symbols that we know. And now I hear you just even before that, it was, I think, African or Egyptian, like really. And I did not know that. But why am I saying that? Because when I was 12, and 12 will be around like it would still be within the range of the 9 years before that. Yeah, it was the node reversal. It was with the Rao in either Scorpio or Libra when Rabin died. But before Rabin died, there was something about this because I remember we were having these fests in school, and I had to write to write the hymn for the school. So I took the kind of violent songs that they sing in the back of the bus. Okay, very violent song about raping babies. Like they sang a song about an Arab person that rapes a baby, like in Israel. Okay, and I took this melody. It was very catchy. Instead of these words, I had put in other words into it. And when I think about that German musician, he was doing the same with songs. People will write songs, they will change them to more optimistic songs, to more optimistic lyrics, basically. It's kind of trying to show the optimistic thing. And then we took the entire competition with this song, with the power of the music. And I was thinking I was a big shot, and I was thinking to do that with the symbolism of Hitler. Okay? I knew at age 12 that I would do something like that. And then I was thinking, I'm a big shot. I'm going to take this violence and I'm going to invert it into something beautiful. And I do have an artwork that I want to create exactly with this. It's very simple, very colorful, and I know that I want to do it. Hopefully I will have the budget. Not that provoking as I see it, but I might not be in touch with reality of how other people see it. So the thing is that at that eclipse, after that eclipse cycle, basically I would run into this information about the swastika. It was originally a symbol that was, well-being, health, love, peace, so and so. And then Hitler basically copyrighted, he inverted it into the swastika. And now I'm having this more and more stuff. And also on the node reversal, which was when the Me Too happened for me. Before the Me Too, I think it was still when I was in my first degree. And when I met that person from academia, he was also reading to us from Mein Kampf, which I actually really liked. It is like we get to see Hitler in his words. Rather than to hear about it, and, I was from the people that I understand why
People would want to keep that and, not to evoke such a discourse. But I also think that there's merit in addressing. It's like this is what the person wrote, his words. Now let's find what the problem. When I began to read this year, I began to read Mein Kampf, English translation, but then I realized, why did they hide this? A part of why, there are many reasons why, but it's like Hitler was awfully relatable in his own words. Okay, he was awfully honest, awfully authentic, awfully relatable. He admitted he didn't lie, but it's not more than anybody else. And also in his theory, he was affected by people like Churchill. So it's like everybody thought that Hitler got slacked for it. You could think about the fear of assimilation. You could think about basically the marrying in between, okay, the tribe, and there are various reasons for that. Okay, for example, Romani people had to keep their tradition a secret, or they would be destroyed. Okay, they were fearing for their life. They were not doing that for any other reason. But so was Hitler. Okay, so was Mein Kampf. It was the same idea, the same concept, that we have to protect our race, have to protect, we have to preserve. We're constantly at war, and there were a lot of things that were not visible then. And I think with the rise of feminism, are more visible because we speak more about what's getting wrong in the bedroom. Okay, back then, in between wars, we had a lot of, like, the bisexual. If you think about Bertolt Brecht, who was bisexual, or Marlene Dietrich, which was bisexual. There's a lot of freedom, the in between wars, the Weimar time, but nobody talked about what gets wrong in the bedroom, because that's willing consent. And so that is, at least not that I know, and that is where we can start healing and recovering from sexual boundary violations, regardless of gender. Okay, women do that too. It's not my, I'm not here to make comparisons and such. Just to note that we all have embodiment to do when it comes to willing consent. So the thing is that when you start to heal, to recover, so you go to your root chakra to open up the heart chakra, or you open your heart chakra so you can ground yourself, because you get dissociated from the body. It's like literally, when I look at my bone structure that I'm learning to align, it's kind of like crunched up, so it just feels like also like the soul evaporating from the body, trying to get out. In my case, was not even anywhere near like the cases that are. It's like it was just another thing that happens in the world. Um, so you see how that affects the bone structure. Okay, the nervous system, the bone structure, and then you start connecting things, and then you start connecting the personal with the political, and then you start saying, okay, well, in Hitler's time, people were afraid of basically extinction, so they brought a lot of babies, and they had to fight to conquer land. Okay, so he was just saying what was reasonable at this time, was descriptive of the reality. Okay, all the peoples do that, the tribes did that, and we are actually going towards kind of ideation of tribal life, or revisiting tribal life. So it's like all the tribes do that. It's like you have for your own land, and then you go out and conquer for resources. First, you get the people on the land, that they procreate, and then they occupy. And that was quite descriptive of reality. Okay, it was not out of touch with reality. And it was not something, it was not spoken, it was not believed. And people thought about what would be the most winning race, because they saw nature as a competition. But when you have willing consent, then it's a lot milder. It's a lot slower, it's a lot milder. You're not stressed for having kids. Maybe you want a couple of kids, and then there would be people who are child-free, like, okay, no problem. You want to be child-free, no problem. People take care of the children, and when there's a culture of willing consent, feminists can do law from here until tomorrow, and they should, and we should. But when there's a culture, the political culture needs to change. And unfortunately, that happens a lot through crises, which I hope we can somehow mitigate why I'm talking, when I'm talking, when I'm doing these things. But the thing is that when you have this parameter called willing consent in life, then it's less of a struggle, more of a connection. It's more like we came to live a beautiful life. We're not just worried about working hard, paying the bills, farting a lot of children, and these children not really having any place to go to find out in child trafficking and child labor and as child soldiers, because with the law, they dodge the law, they can do all the things that adults can't do and supposedly get away with that, so people recruit them to do that. And that's a very big problem that we have. And so everybody was thinking that Hitler applied that. And right now, as I'm going back to this notion, is kind of like what would be the inversion on the inversion is, but it's not just remembrance. It's not just going back to how it was, because obviously how it was changed for a reason. Okay? If we didn't have willing consent, then eventually this brings in the collapse of the structure. Okay? And that's what happened to tribal society. So there were things that were like, there were a lot of good, but there needed to be a bit of a progress, and unfortunately that came through crisis. And so you think about stuff like biodiversity is good for the immune system. And I remember when I have had dogs and cats all my life, and with dogs, even when you want a purebred dog, there's no such thing as a purebred dog, because you need to take care of the immune system. And when I was reading about, like racism and stuff and purity of the race, and I was like, or fear of assimilation, then everywhere I go, it's like even with dogs, the immune system, you have to combine species or races or whatever you call it of dogs, purebred, whatnot. You have to combine these purebreds so that you get a better immune system. Okay? With people, when people are exposed to different ideas, different worldviews, different this, different that, they become more tolerant, okay, become more communicative, especially when they travel, okay? So, and also the immune system. Okay, if you've never been to India and you travel to India, you might think, oh, the Indians are dirty, the Indians are this, because you get this poison, food poisoning, that food poisoning. It's like, no, you're not used to the bacteria in India. The Indians are very clean, perhaps even no less clean than you, if not more, but you're not used to the bacteria. Now, if you get to travel, then it's not a problem. Okay? You're resistant to it because you're exposed. So it's both with our healthcare, with our immune system, but also with our religions. If I think about Maimonides, he was in exile. Okay, he was Jew in exile, and it was met a lot of religious people that were Muslim and even Sufi, and so there was this interconnection that began to build up what would later be brought back to Judaism and be celebrated as the purebred Judaism. Okay, so the fact that Hitler had these supposed discrepancies in his own theoretical thinking, it was nothing but the spirit of the time. It's just what happens with everyone. It was just more well known, and that leads me to understand there's just a lot of optimism of the where to go. Okay, if we promote biodiversity, permaculture, people having space, traveling and meeting people, and we basically promote a more resilient spiritual religious system, a more resilient nervous system, more resilient immune system, digestive system, and basically quite beautiful people. You see mixed race people tend to be quite beautiful. So that is what I'm thinking now. But there was another aspect to it, as something I didn't know, and I come to this cycle after having the experience of having no place to stay the night. Okay, so then I learned about that thought, or that half joke of if Hitler would have made money by painting, is becoming less and less funny. because and recently I learned that he had these times where he was homeless, and I'm like, the guy was homeless. Okay, this is where judgment ceases, because when a person is betrayed by humanity, okay, is feeling that disillusioned with humanity, okay, now we have a big problem. It's like now to gain back the connection with humanity, um, he has to play to all of the cards that will appeal to humanity on one side, but you kind of it's very challenging to the ability to relate on the other side, because there's that, hey, there was no place to stay, there was no place to live, okay. um, so that 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 fundamental understanding that biodiversity, it also allows us time to be artistic. I was just looking at craniosacral healing, and what it has in part with shamanism is the notion that dancing, singing, making love is a part of what heals the muscles, okay? And you have these muscles in the back. Yeah, I don't remember. It's called a psoas. Then it's not just the exercise or the stretching. It's basically the speaking, the laughing, the dancing, the release, and the listening to music that releases these muscles, and they can move again. And I'm like, oh my God. It's wonderful to see it from the eyes of Western science looking into that. It's just looking at the world from another point of view, which I love. But you get that there is hope in these movements. There is hope in people that understand these things. There is hope in people that get that it is biodiversity that we stand, that is good for us, rather than a Mein Kampf culture. Because we really had a Mein Kampf culture, but the book that described that culture was hidden from us because it was awfully relatable, and everybody wanted to kill Hitler and kill his memories, kill his theory, but they were practicing it day to day to day to day to day. Okay? The people who make the decisions, they have an access to this book. Okay? The people don't have an access to this book. That was what and how and why that happened. So now, now if I go back to like that time or that period, basically it began to stop being able to work because work demanded things that were inhumane of me. I began to feel like, I began to feel like a real weirdo in the world. It's like everybody managed to keep a job, and then people began to speak about them not being able to stand for longer shifts in like the pharmacy, the super farm. So they put for them chairs. Yeah, there was a parliament member that was activist about this, but in order to put chairs, what they put was bicycle chairs at first. They had bicycle chairs. Okay, now we have another problem. Now they don't have cashiers all the time. They tell you pay at this machine, and they hold people to tell you to pay at this machine until they will get rid of the people. When you try to speak to the people, understand that this is what's going to happen. It's like you're talking bullshit, and they could be, my parent is the Pluto Leo generation, but they could be my parent, in terms of age. I mean, you're talking bullshit. And, the more you try to make sense, the more you look like a conspiracy theorist when people are not open to hear what's actually in process. So, but again, the solution, I believe, is not to withhold back, okay, to try to fight to preserve, but to try and see where do we want to go to, okay, and how do we integrate technology in a way that is supportive of the going to, because we're trying to change something, bringing something from the past and making a bit of version on it that fits for the spirit of our times today. So that is where I kind of begin to think or begin to see the solution. And then back then it was when I began to be unable to work. Okay, I would go and work for McDonald's, then my feet would hurt, and then I worked for a customer service, and we had sales, and then my throat would not work, and those things really correlated with some corruption that I seen. Okay, those things correlated with corruption that I seen. I'm a whistleblower, so of course, it's, when you're 20, you're not ready for that. You're not ready for that. And I studied filmmaking, which was the most susceptible to Me Too cases. And then I ran out of money. So I was like, no money for study. So what can I do but writing scripts? I will write. I will practice. Okay. And I edited my mother's book because she saw I'm not getting any job. And I said to the, well, this is where you get to register that you're unemployment. I said, I don't want to register unemployment. Find me a job. I want to work. Come on, I'm 20 something. I want to work. Okay, so I didn't get anything. I didn't get any money, and there was no job. And the jobs that were, they began to be like the boss is sexually harassing, and I didn't know to paint it in these terms that way. But I was like, okay, that's not good. Let's go someplace else. But inside that, these words of that doctor that told me you must paint, you must create, you must write. And I saw that when I'm doing that, I am becoming a better person. Okay, so these words were helpful. Okay, and I would run later when I was about to break from academia. Then I would get to. There would be a healer that would tell me you need to grow something from the seed. Grow a plant from the seed. And I thought she was, what? But let's try to do this. And she talked about my womb. And I said, what is she talking about? I don't plan right now, plan pregnancy. What she talk about? So, but I said, I'll try it. Went on that day, and it was very far. Traveled and bought some seeds and planted them and watered them, and they didn't grow. And I bought some plants and I grew them, and I was happy with that. But when I would get, this would be only after I'd be in between houses for 6 months and get to this property that I would begin to grow things. And I saw wow, you're growing with your crops. This is insane. This is insane. Okay, so this is that sense of connection, which is another aspect. This is what the first aspect is, creating, writing. So another aspect is growing crops, growing this, and like growing children. I'm like, but I'm a writer. So that's very scary. But there are all kinds of things that I was exposed to that need to change so that they can facilitate the growth of these children. So now I'm at this point where there's something in the 8th house that I'm letting go of, and the 8 and the 9, so that I'm letting go of, but I don't know where am I heading. Okay, where am I going with this? Because I know what I know is I can't compromise my art. What I know is I can't get a job. It will kill me literally. Okay, I skipped that part, but. Whenever I don't say trigger warning, it's still a trigger warning. Whenever I do say, it's me trying to grow more informed on the outside, not just the inside. So trigger warning, well, there's no such thing as suicide. But also, when I looked at the suicide of Peter R. de Vries, and I looked at the taker of life, so that led me right back to the ascendant. It was not the only delineation, but it's a very philosophical, interesting point. Okay, so he was assassinated, but perhaps it felt like it was making, it was put an ultimatum, but it's like he made a certain choice, supposedly, and my world feels like there is no such thing as a suicide, but it comes from delving into the depths of suicide ideation, understanding basically I want to live, and that ideation is basically attempting to find a choice there, but the choice is life. Okay, so there is no such thing as suicide. Okay, the choice is to live, but the desire to live. There's no such thing as suicide. So, um, yeah. And I was in a situation where it could be the possibility that people try to make it like suicide. So that is a very deep question, philosophical question. Doesn't mean there's no such thing as people killing themselves, but yeah, that was the situation, and yeah, a lot of fire on that one. So that was the eclipse of October 14. It's going to be on that day with the exact location of the moon and the sun. Boom, back to that point. So I know there's something else like a big deal, but what I also know is that I can't take any, like I'm a whistleblower, but I also don't trust the organization that would oh, let's get hired as a whistleblower. I don't trust these guys. I am a creative person. I'm a person that needs to do and be and say whatever they need to do and be and say. So the reason why I'm almost 40 and single is so, plus a cat. Yes. Yeah. I have a cat adopted me, and they're so nice that I can't resist them. So the thing is that I know my character. Okay, I know who I am, and I also know that what I do is true to me. Okay, it's not like I don't want to work or I don't want to get any job or this or that. It's like the only reason for me to go into a job is to start a revolution there. Okay, that's my CV. It's like to consensually start a revolution there. So it's a suicide mission. Because at the time I was working for the credit card company, when something happened was not in alignment with my ethical standards, I became the rotten, I became bitter, rotten, angry, in anguish, and even my boss, he was he saw that I need to do something with myself that's actually useful for me. So I really tried to work with society. Okay, I wasn't born a rebel in the sense that I have this desire to rebel or just I really tried to work and kind of bring in my creative desires and par with society's structure. Okay? It didn't work so much so that I literally asked, bring me that with dignity or bring me studies, which I knew I like to study. So I love to study. That's something I can compromise on. And they did, and I did the first degree, and then the second degree, there would be that Me Too case, but also a lot of other things. So if we're going to have an exact October 14 eclipse with the exact location in Libra, so something of that magnitude. Meow. So, but I come to it after all of my Saturn stuff. Okay, so Saturn's in my first house, but other than that, I come to it with all of my Saturn stuff. Like, I don't like, and I even tried stuff like hospital or kind of like the retreat stuff option. I'm like, that's not healthy. It's not healing people. It's like I know what I need. What I don't know is how. Like I understand that a change is on where change is needed, but I don't understand what and why and how. I know that growing crops is good for me. I know creating is good for me. I know that human relations is something that I need to find a way to do in a way that is happy and safe and joyous for me. And then there's a question of children. So that is, then you say, oh, how do you support that and how do you fund that? And I'm like, I don't know, but I do know that every other option that was supposed to be viable leads to death, and I want to live. So, yeah.
So this is that was the closest, like the 20, that was the 18 years. Then we had 2005 is April 8. Um, and we will be coming close. Okay, this one was with Rahu already in Aries. It was 19 Aries. Again, quite close to when it's going to be today. But I was April 8th, not October. And Venus was next to my Mercury. So this would be when I think this is probably around when I began to work for that credit card company. And then they would be changing something. Um, they would change us from incoming calls to outgoing calls. But they had a file there of people that were a good opportunity, that the needs of these people were met, and then they started to do stuff that are not ethical anymore. And then that would be when I would have to leave, and it would be also moving houses. So this one was in 10 degrees Libra with Rahu, yeah, Aries. But this is also when I started like the writing and stuff, all the healing that took place. Or at least understanding that when I say I'm a writer, I don't just mean my identity, but I mean my well-being. And it is not about changing an identity here. So the problem is not my identity. Later, by the way that I would get money for my first degree is to agree to be called in a mental ailment, and the mental ailment was mood disorder, but also personality disorder, okay, borderline. And it would be I who will push for that because I needed the funding, and I understood it's like this the only way to study for me is if I get funding. And I said I will try to see what they have to offer because I did see myself a disease. I did think, oh, okay, there are things to change in my character and so that applies for that the most. And come on, give me dignified death or give me studies. So yeah, but then I would learn about everything that's wrong with the psychiatric system and psychological. But this is the Pluto-Neptune thinking. Okay, if you're in good aspects with Pluto and hard aspects with Neptune, so when you try to do psychology and pills, it basically doesn't work well. But the idea is good, but the praxis is literally killing people. So this is the constellations. This is already 2006, and yet again, eclipse with Rahu, 8 degrees. This is already on my Lilith. That's where I begin to work probably for editing my mother's book. And that's that. Okay, the eclipse for the 29. Probably manifesting another way, but that was that. Yes, probably that eclipse had two the nodes. Where was Rahu? No, Rahu was already on the next axis. So it's quite a pivotal one. And you know, back then I had like, you know, my parent to rely on, but now it's kind of like they ain't nothing. So it's quite a pivotal, and you cannot say that it's about me being stubborn or not being flexible or me kind of like, you know, the problem was not that I was not willing to compromise. The problem was that I compromised too much and I became unwilling to persist. So now it's like a very big issue. It's like I really must remember that because those are the things that I stand for, because I went through the gate of the valley of death, and the only way to stay alive was to be who I am today. Now, if I promote biodiversity, inclusivity,
a more relaxed lifestyle and try to see how do I get there, like how do I persist with that, how do I expand on that, how do I do it, how is it done, then that's what I see as the way to go, because anything that gets you back to those places is simply en par with death, which I actually chose to live and to grow life. So I'm on the path of growing life, and I hope that that would be facilitated. But there's something you almost must remember is that you get the healing that you need, you get the messages, you get what facilitates your path. Like you do get that, okay? Things do come and assist you. It's just like it's not easy, but things do come and assist you. And because when I was in between homes, it was so much so that every day I felt that I'm going to die today. Like I literally pondered about it. It's like, is this the end of life? And I did what I could with that. But you must understand, I was receiving so much support. Okay? And even that, it was even that. You know, my situation amongst people who are homeless was so privileged. And even then, yes, it's true, they do everything to make you die in the way. Yes, it's true, of course, but they do this to everyone, okay? My situation within this situation, within the fact that that was where I was at, my situation was privileged, okay? And every day I believe that this is it, this is probably it. It's probably, maybe I should say goodbye to people. Like, it's probably, like, I don't know. Like, it was very difficult to live every day. So that's, yeah, that's also something that I've been through, okay? And so yeah, I think I said it. So that is the episode for today. This is where it meets me. And this is the second eighth house axis, okay? It's the axis of both birthing, ancestral stuff, in the sense of like, generational wealth and, what do you call it, trauma? That it is. So, trying to be optimistic here. And second house, how I make my living, what I spend, like how I make my money, what I spend my money, how I make my resources, how I spend my resources, my values, my food, and all that. So, yeah, I'm a person of the word. It's true. I'm a person of the image as well. Not the image as in the image of a person, but there's photography or painting, or it's conceptual. Mainly I do conceptual stuff. So it's not like I have this great skill of, the Leonardo da Vinci softness of the hand. It's more like the conceptual stuff. So that is what I'm good for. Okay. And even astrology, I'm good in astrology. Like, you give me a person to deal with something, who's probably, most of the cases, there are always cases you can't tend to. Most of the cases, not only I'll be able to tend to, but just like when I was working in it's not customer service, it was sales, but even customer service, whenever they would have like a customer that people couldn't deal with, they would like call me up, and I would handle that, no problem. So even in readings, I noticed that some people come to me with stuff that are like impossible, and I find the possible. And I'm like, who believed that I would have something to say actually beneficial to this person? Who thought that I can help a person? I don't know if they're homeless or they have this repeating life cycles, or it's like, I'm not saying I can help everybody. Absolutely not. It's just that I was lucky to have these encounters that I was able to assist or to say something was beneficial to people at junctures in their life that I did not believe I could have a contribution to, like to, to them at this point. So that is where I stand, and yet I know that astrology is a means of creation for me. Okay, it's just like screenwriting. It's this making it. It's like it's not making an impact on the world. It's being a part of the world is both changing the world and changing by it. And so this is the juncture where I'm at. It's the juncture where we all are. I guess why I'm so fascinated with being an outer planet to inner planet girly. Then I'm so fascinated with the outer to the inner planets. Now I'm fascinated. Okay, I've been in struggles all my life. When you try to get, advice or healing, and people give you personal advice, and you try to apply that, and it doesn't work for you, and you understand it. Yes, you must change the world. You can't go to heal sexual trauma with your psychologist that grew up in a place where probably, if not him, his colleagues were probably, violated the sexual boundaries of women. And we are at the point of being aware just to what extent that's happened. It's like, and expect to get healed. Like, it's not going to happen. I mean, we can have some healing conversations, but not in a, power position of therapy. So it's just that, If you think about the models, we talk about relationships where they have these models, there is the thought, what was said, if there was a camera in the room, stick to what was said, to the facts of like, well, energy is not like that. Like, you sense things and you need to be able to respond to them. You need to set energy boundaries. You need to speak about the energy realm, okay? You have to speak about this so you can, understand or confirm. And you have to have trust there. Okay, this is why when my therapist violated the trust in energy boundaries and confirmed that that's what is threatened my life, there's no bigger confirmation, that I'm not imagining. So that was, and the threat was, of course, they don't know what's energy. That's why it's called they don't know what's energy. But the thing is that that we could not have trust anymore. I cannot rely on your communication if you violate my boundaries. So, and it's without judgment. So obviously, probably was some traumatic reason causing to act the way he acted. But I chose life, right? So, must heal. And this is these junctures. It's like I am an astrologer. Absolutely, it's a great part of my life. And it's also the part that is creative. And the aspects to who I am, and those are vital to my well-being. Okay, to act on them, to do me is vital for my well-being. It's for everyone, and I guess people are like the people who are exposed to that later in life, or who are sitting on the periphery of the problem because maybe they have like a couple of acres, that they have other problems in their life that could be no less disturbing and even lethal, but it's like they have different problems. So that whole thing is what I'm revisiting, and with the first eclipse on the exact like on the exact degree. So yeah, I don't know, like really I don't know. I know that I've been through this, and when I was 2 years old is when my parents divorced. So that was not something I remember, but and unfortunately, for to preserve like there will be in the privacy of people, I can't really. Of course, there was more. So. Yeah, that's the deal. This is this episode.